What's going on, people, and welcome back to the channel. So I'm sorry for the late video, but I'm going to do a quick reaction to the game at the weekend, which finished Dundee 1, Celtic 2 in the Scottish Premier League. Celtic closing the gap on Rangers and Hearts, particularly Hearts, who dropped points against Livingston on Sunday to 2 points, I think it is. Yeah, big win for Celtic. I thought we should have been way further ahead at half-time, to be honest. Again, not taking our chances. Tara, I think his name is, the striker. I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's just not got it, as he's just not good enough. Another signing that the board have failed to deliver on. You know, he's simply not good enough. Very poor signing. But yeah, Celtic should have been way further ahead at half time. Fair play to Dundee in the second half. You know, they got the penalty. It was a penalty. You know, Donovan, yeah, it's 2 yards away, but he's got his arm up. You know, it is a penalty, to be honest. And yeah, I thought Dundee started the second half a lot better as well. I thought we went into our shell again. But this is the problem with this Celtic team. They just play in patches. They're not a good side. They're a terrible Celtic team. You know, Martin O'Neill, fair play to him. You know, he's carrying this team, to be honest. If Celtic win the league with Martin O'Neill and Hearts don't, it'll be an absolute travesty. Or Rangers don't, to be honest, because all three of them are rubbish. You know, all three of them are crap, in my opinion. Rangers, Celtic and Hearts. But whoever wins will be the worst champion in SPL history, in my opinion. Because they're all three of them are rubbish. Like, they're all crap, to be honest. But yeah, the game started. You know, Celtic definitely started quite well. You know, they got the goal. It was Benjamin Negron. You know, again, Negron, you know, he doesn't get involved in the game. It's so frustrating. But he is our top scorer. That says more about our strikers than it does than anything else. You know, relying on a guy who a lot of fans don't rate, to be honest, even though he's our top scorer. A bit like Josh Windass was for Rangers. You know, Josh Windass scored goals, but no one rated him, to be honest, because he never got him. He would go missing in games and not turn up. You know, Negron's literally like that. But yeah, it was a good ball into the box. And Yang and Negron went for the ball. You know, tripped it over McCracken. You know, McCracken made a complete hash of it. But yeah, it was Negron who got the final touch, and Celtic were 1-0 up. They deserved to be 1-0 up as well, because they did start creating chances. Tara, you know, was so poor, like I said, but he did have an opportunity where he literally should have scored. You know, he should have gone round McCracken, but instead he tried to put it past him, played through, you know, and hits the post. You know, really unlucky from Tara, but that's the only thing he done. You know, he's not good enough. I wouldn't sign him permanently. He's had enough chances now, in my opinion. He's simply not got it. You know, and we did play quite well in the first half. You know, we didn't play brilliantly, but we definitely should have been more than 1-0 up, to be honest. The second half begins, though, and Dundee came out, and they did start playing a lot better. We were getting mauled in the middle of the pitch again. You know, we lack so much physicality in the middle of the pitch. There's so much, like, work rate in terms of physicality. It's ridiculous. You know, Dundee were winning every single second ball. It was so frustrating. Dundee, you know, got the penalty. It's a penalty. You know, ball comes in. You know, Donovan, what is he doing? You know, sticking his arm up. You know, why didn't he just throw himself in front of it? You know, it would have been so much easier. I'm not convinced about Donovan, to be honest. Yeah, he's young, but, you know, I don't think it's fair we're relying on him because he isn't experienced. And for a title run-in, should we be relying on a guy? I know Arojo's injured and Johnson's injured, but should we be and Ralston's not good enough either, but should we be relying on a guy who's literally young, you know, he's come through. He's a young player. I don't think it's fair on Donovan, to be honest. He could be good in the future. I think he should have gone out on loan in January, to be honest. But he didn't because we don't have any other options. At right back because, you know, the club hasn't invested properly and we've had injuries and stuff. No excuse, you know. But, yeah, Donovan handles the ball. You know, the referee goes to the monitor. You know, VAR tells him to go and have a look. It's going to be a penalty. When they go and have a look, you know it's going to be given most of the time. Simon Murray stepped up. And it was a good penalty. You know, Celtic, you know, were level, to be honest. You know, Celtic, you know, did sort of come back into it towards the last 20 minutes or so. And it was Iheanacho. Iheanacho got the goal that won us the game. And it's a good ball in. You know, Iheanacho does well. Gets in front of the defender. Hits it and scores. Really good finish from Iheanacho. I don't rate him. I don't think he's been. I don't think we should have signed him. But that could be a crucial goal for Celtic in the title run-in. But it just proves that we have to rely on a guy who's never been good at any clubs he's been at. A little spell at Man City, like 10 years ago, whenever it was. And we're relying on a guy who was at Sevilla, who literally Sevilla didn't want, and we're happy to release him. Yang then got played through and Ashley brought him down, and he was sent off. Yeah, he was sent off. It was a red card. Ashley pulls Yang back. Yang actually was decent again yesterday on Sunday, I thought. But again, Yang does this where he has decent games and he flatters to deceive again. But yeah, Celtic got the win. That was a good win for us. We got St Mirren on Saturday where we could go top temporarily. That'll be an interesting game because we have got St Mirren twice. We got them on Saturday, then we got them again in the league in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup and at Hampden. They obviously beat us in the other cup convincingly when we had Wilfred Nancy in charge and Stephen Robinson was still there. Stephen Robinson has obviously moved on to Aberdeen. So obviously, and St Mirren, they're still recovering from Stephen Robinson's departure. So it'll be a tough game. St Mirren is always a tough game. They're a very physical team as well. Yeah, just, physically, we just don't have it. We don't, we're not physical enough, in my opinion. Our players are weak. That's the thing about Cannon. He's a big guy, but he's just weak for a striker, of his size. Look at the strikers we've had before, like Hartson, Sutton, Dembele, Edwards. Even somebody like Kyogo, not Kyogo, Giacomakis, players like that who could hold the ball up, flick it on, could link the play. Calantrara hasn't got it, he's one of the worst signings we've ever made in terms of strikers, in my opinion. He's terrible. We got a terrible back line. We're relying on James Forrest to come off the bench, simply not good enough from the board, and the club in general. The board, as we know, need to go at the end of the season, regardless of what happens. We have got Hearts. They've released the fixtures for the split today. We've got Hearts at home on the last day of the season. It could be over by then because obviously Rangers and Celtic play each other at Celtic Park, and Hearts still need to play Rangers as well, and Celtic got to play Motherwell, and Motherwell are a decent side. Dropped off a bit, but recently because obviously Celtic beat them, but Hearts haven't beaten Motherwell this season, so Hearts obviously drawing with Livingston really helps us. But the problem is you just don't have any faith for the Celtic team. I have to be honest. I don't think we'll win the league. I think Rangers will win it. Unfortunately, I've just got a bad feeling it's going to be Rangers this season. I don't think they're a good side either. I don't think Hearts, Rangers and Celtic are anything special. I think Rangers weren't great against Dundee United, but they got the result, I thought Dundee United were the better team. Dundee United beat us comprehensively, before the international break as well. So whoever wins is going to be a poor champion, but, it is what it is. But yeah, that's my reaction to the game. Obviously St Mirren on Saturday. We'll see how it goes. I don't think the Green Brigade are going to be back this season, to be honest. Again, just the club in general is just an absolute travesty this season. Has been for years in terms of the board and the fans. It's been going on for ages. I think this really started in 2020 with the Neil Lennon COVID season thing. Even before then, the Champions League qualifiers, even going back to like Stratgord and Strachan, there's always been problems with the Celtic boards. We know that. They must go. As I said, Desmond, I wish he would sell his shares, but he's not going to. It's so frustrating because he's a major problem as well. Why is a shareholder with 34% control in Celtic Football Club? It's ridiculous. And why is nobody standing up to him and saying to him, like, Dermot, it's time to go. You're not helping the situation. You're actually making the situation worse because you're not ambitious enough. You don't take the ball by the horns and push Celtic on, But that's my reaction. I'll do a reaction to the St Mirren game on Saturday where hopefully Celtic can get a result. But again, with St Mirren this season, we've not been convincing, to be honest. We were lucky against them under O'Neill in the away game. We should have been beat in that game. We were so bad. We were dominated most of the match until McGregor scored that amazing goal in the last minute. Yeah, we weren't good against St Mirren. We haven't been good against St Mirren before. McCowan as well, under Brendan, first game of the season, we weren't great. The semi-final, we were absolutely tragic under Wilfred Nancy. So yeah, St Mirren will definitely be a hard game for us. But yeah, that's my reaction. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you guys on Saturday after the game against St Mirren. Peace.